welcome to episode 60 of React Native Radio. I'm your host, Nader Davitt. Today on our panel, we have Gant Laborde.
Hello.
And our special guest is Mike Grabowski. Mike, welcome to the show, or welcome back to the show.
Oh, yeah. Hey, guys. It's been a while.
Yes, definitely. It's good to have you back. So I think today we're going to be talking about a couple of things. Mainly, though, we're going to be talking about Hall. And Hall is the new package manager that CallStack and Mike put together here recently, and it basically is a drop-in replacement for the packager that comes with React Native. So before I mess the description up, can you kind of talk about Hall and why you made it and what it does?
Yeah, sure. So as you said, Hall is a command line tool for developing React Native applications in a sense that it's a drop-in replacement for React Native commands. At least it aims to. Currently, we only ship with replacement for Packager, which is a dev server that you use to bundle your React Native applications. And so what Hall does is it uses Webpack internally to basically bundle your application and serve it to the React Native client. And so, when designing Hall, like the main purpose to design Hall was to kind of, bring Webpack ecosystem and basically the existing tooling back to React Native. Because back in the day, there was a discussion in the React Native repository about bringing Webpack instead of Packager and how would that work. But, there were some performance concerns raised by Facebook, especially in regards to their custom modules implementation. Anyway, it's been 2 years since then, and we kind of realized that, most of people using React Native are not running Facebook scale. And so they may not need, these kind of optimizations. And so we feel like benefits of bringing Webpack might be better, in terms of, benefits of Webpack might win when compared to slightly slower development cycles. And so that was the main purpose, to kind of, fix the problems that people were facing with Packager. By bringing Webpack, which is slightly a bit more documented and more stable, to the table, and see how that would work for bundling typical React Native applications.
So what problems is Hall solving for the average developer? So if I'm a React Native developer, what would I do when I see Hall? What would Hall offer me, I guess, when I see it? That would be a selling point. I'm like, oh, okay, I need to use this as opposed to what comes shipped with React Native.
Sure. So I'd say that the most the biggest selling point is support for symlinks, and so
yes.
Yeah. So I'd say that Hall is not it's not directly aimed at, let's say, average end developers. Its aim was to support those developers that are kind of building libraries and building stuff that has to work with React Native, and they were facing issues like lack of symlink support. We were doing hacks like editing files in place inside Node modules. And we were facing issues like Node modules were not reloading and stuff like that. So the purpose of Hall was to make it stable and easy for developers to create libraries for the React Native ecosystem. And then when we realized that this is kind of cool and it's targeting these developers, there is still the second part of people in the community, those that are just developing apps, that we also wanted to support. And so what Hall is solving for those people is it's kind of beautiful. We spend a lot of time on making it nice, making interface beautiful and self-descriptive, just to eliminate a lot of problems that people were facing with Packager. And so, for example, we got a lot of cool stuff inside. We have decided to create our CLI implementation entirely from scratch. And so what it does, for example, is that if you call a start command, it has a couple of options that are required to be specified. You have to specify the platform you are building your application for. And so instead of exiting the command line tools and saying you forgot to specify an option, we ask you to choose it from a drop-down instead. And after that, we also print you how to call it again. And so, for example, if people are using npm or yarn run scripts, they often forget to specify, like, how to specify options. So, or they do mistakes, or they do typos, or I don't know, they pass like invalid option. And so what we do is, instead of quitting, we are trying to ask for as many things as possible and explain as many things as possible as early as possible, so that these people can focus on building apps instead of spending time on, reverse engineering the CLI, or asking, like, opening issues on GitHub and asking, like, why this is not working. And surprisingly, if you take a look at our repo, it's been like 2 weeks, I guess, since we opened it, and we only got like 10 or maybe 11 issues. Most of them are, enhancements. So it's not like people are experiencing a lot of bugs. And this is quite interesting because Whole is like different than Packager, and we got quite a few like things differently. For example, with Whole, you can't just like with Packager, you start server and you ask for a bundle using URL, right? So you have the platform, iOS or Android inside your URL param. So we can change that. With Whole, you have to specify it up front when starting a command line tools, right? And so this is different. But thanks to, nice documentation and that interface that asks you for questions, it's been quite, easy for people to adjust and work with that different concepts.
So, because we have a lot of, I think, not only advanced listeners, but people just kind of starting off, can you kind of talk about the significance of the support of symlinks?
Yes. So basically, like, maybe let me start first with explaining why symlinks are not working with Packager. The reason is that Packager is using Watchman to listen for changes on your file system, and when the change to any of your files is done, it sends a signal to Packager that it has to refresh the bundle. The problem is that it doesn't support symlinks. How would you explain symlinks, by the way? Because it's kind of...
Well, I could tell you a good story, just sort of like what you're talking about here. And, I know you said that it's not for the beginning developers. It might not be that, but actually they'll always see the effects of it. Because what's really funny is I could tell you several stories about where we're editing node modules inside of a project, right? And we're trying to make, even not me, several very advanced people that I've worked with from other organizations sit there, implement an entire solution, got it working, and then went ahead and cleared their node modules folder, and then their solution went away. Oh. And they were like, I was editing in there, and they lost everything. And it's just like we're doing these hacky things, right? And what year is it, right? And so I have to say, the idea of just sort of like building a good developer experience and developer workflow it can't be second rate anymore. So that's a fantastic opportunity. Just working with the different pieces of Webpack, being able to sort of build in these middle layers. Because actually, I have a large list of ideas, things that can kind of work with Hall, and first rate working with Packager. It was a bit of a beast, It's a lot more complex.
Like the problem, the problem with Packager is that it's kind of following what Facebook wants. And I'm not saying this is bad, and it's totally understandable because this is their product. It's done in the open source, but it's like things are improving because I'm talking to people that are responsible for working on it. But still, as of now, there is no clear roadmap on what's gonna happen with it. And,
right.
It's like if you have an idea and you want to contribute it back, there is still like you never know whether it's going to make it to master or not, because it may be like not aligned with what Facebook is kind of planning to do with it. So the thing is that like with Whole, the reason that I said that Whole is targeted at like advanced developers was only because I believe it's going to change the ecosystem. Just because, as you said, it's totally pluggable. Like we have Express server, and that concept of middlewares, you can just plug in whatever you want. And in fact, there were people adding in new stuff. Like I guess your friend from Infinite Red, you guys added a symbol like middleware to symbolicate JS files. So that is kind of cool, and that concept allows a lot of fun things to do. Like currently we have Webpack server, but we can use Fusebox, we can use Rollup, we can use whatever we want. It's just Webpack is an implementation detail. Obviously, we are starting with it just to gain the popularity. But what I have in mind, like the final goal for Whole is to become like a foundation for others to build tooling upon it. And so Webpack or whatever you're gonna use under the hood, or even Packager, will just become an implementation detail, and you will be able to do like a lot of fun stuff. And I'm like so excited to like I'm talking to a lot of people from community, and they are building a lot of cool stuff with Whole right now. Like they have so many cool ideas to do, and they are now possible because they know Webpack, and they know that Webpack is capable of quite a few things they were planning to do. And so it's gonna change the way we write React Native apps pretty much like in the nearest future. As soon as we kind of finish building the tooling on top of it. So
that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I have
there's
to
gonna
say,
be a lot of.
Just so that everybody else knows, I mean, there is a garden wall problem with the Facebook open source. It's not it's a completely understandable problem, but I've done pull requests upstream in a couple of different ways, and to be honest, the ones that work towards sort of the libraries that you've contributed, Mike, like RNPM, those have been easily kind of accepted and then able to sort of adjust. Whereas some of the pieces where we're not really sure what the roadmap is or what the premise is, it's been very difficult to contribute anything specifically to Packager. Right.
Yes,
so it doesn't leave itself to a modular design. Have you spoken about Hall with, I think, is it Christoph Poyer, who basically has the roadmap?
So it's quite funny. I mean, if Christopher, you are now listening, it's quite funny because we've been talking on Slack recently about planned work on Packager. And then Christopher said that they have a lot of features in mind to ship, but they are time constrained. And I've asked, like, why guys you are time constrained? And just because I was curious what's going on, and he said, just because you haven't joined Facebook yet to work on it. And I was like, okay, that's quite funny. But yeah, he's responsible. I think he's like, as far as I'm aware, I guess he is, kind of managing the team over here that is kind of responsible for that. Yeah, I lost the question.
That's all good. I was just kind of interested because, I mean, the same thing happened. I mean, one of the most interesting notes I've seen is when Facebook came out with Yarn, is a lot of people said, why didn't they just do that inside of, NPM? And there's some chance that, there's some issues here. And it's also a different direction. And I think it's really important because, you have a good communication, and it's cool to know that, this is, you're still in communication with Poyer, and that this is sort of like a different flavor. And it's really fantastic.
I think that, eventually everyone is winning from this situation, because it's not like we have open sourced Whole and we said Packager is bad, don't use Packager sucks. We didn't say that. We believe like Packager is fine, it's fast, and in fact I didn't have any issues with it, honestly. And so what we did is we just decided to show people that this can be done in a different way. And what's happening now is that both these tools are learning from each other. And so Packager got a lot of ideas from Whole and got quite a few improvements to make. And we got a lot of ideas from Packager, and we are, trying to become faster and faster. And there is a shout out to Microsoft that's doing, benchmarking and trying to see whether Whole is good enough. There's been quite a few graphs published recently, and we are not that slow. Like I was expecting Whole to be way slower than it turned out to be. So yeah, I mean, we are constantly improving both of these. So I feel like it's gonna be better in the future. But anyway, like going back for a second to what I was talking about tools in general, is that Whole is just kind of eventually. I hope Whole will become like as I said, kind of like a platform for tools for React Native. And so if you will check the README of whole, it says that what we are working on right now is adding missing React Native comments. And so this is what we are trying to do. We are trying to kind of rewrite, reinvent, and make existing React Native comments better, bringing the whole flavor, the whole user experience to it, making it fast, and making it less error prone. So that's the big thing we are trying to do right now. And I'm hoping that by the end of the day, whole will be able to just become a host, like something that existing React Native command line tools can use under the hood to deliver the experience they are delivering right now.
Very cool.
So do you ever see Facebook picking up Hall as the go-to packager for React Native in the future, or do you see both of them evolving and people kind of using one or another for different use cases?
I don't know yet, honestly. I mean, back in the day, I've heard that Facebook wasn't using command line tool like CLI internally, because I think that they use something different, and the CLI was just made for the open source community. And there was the time that I was kind of owning the CLI. I mean, I was aiming to review the pull requests. So what I like to see is that, like, probably if they are not using it or planning to use it, probably makes more sense to use whole or on top of it, and then just replace packager with like just replace Webpack with packager as soon as we make the pluggable architecture. That would be definitely possible. We'll see. There's like a lot of things we want to do. One of the things, for example, that is planned is our React Native link command, which is something that I'm trying to rewrite once again with whole. It's probably going to have a better support for native dependencies and better plugin architecture. So hopefully, yes. Like, the plan is to just take out the parts from React Native command line tools, make them to whole, and see what happens.
So for anyone listening that's yet to use Hall, what's the easiest way to get started?
So the easiest way to get started will be to npm install it from registry. All you have to do is you just have to add a whole CLI package to your dependencies. This is different because with React Native, you install tools globally. With whole, you install it to your dependencies. So you just install it, and then you call whole init command. And that command will walk you through the setup process. It will integrate whole with your native code. It will add necessary npm scripts. So basically, that's all you have to do. And apart from that, you are good to go. There is nothing more you have to set up.
Okay. I know that you're also working on a bunch of other stuff. You're a big contributor to a lot of open source and React Native. But can you kind of talk about or highlight the most important things that you kind of see going on right now, maybe with React Navigation or anything else, I guess, in particular?
Yeah. So as you said, there's like a lot of things that I'm kind of involved, and that's partially the reason why I was kind of explaining these whole roadmap things, in a very chaotic way, let's say. Anyway, React Navigation is obviously one of the repositories that I'm kind of most involved right now, and we are on our way to get it to like release candidate. There has been a lot of issues recently, and there has been a lot of API breakages but we are on our way to make the API more stable, and we are planning to ship a new version in like a couple of days. It's gonna have a fundamentally different system for specifying options. I mean, I'm not sure if anyone listening here is using React Navigation, but we have simplified the interface significantly. So if you were confused by how the things are working, on how the things are set up, we decided to make few bold decisions recently. And the plan for React Navigation now is to become stable. And personally, it feels like we are on a good track. There has been a time that I was feeling that we have done like bad decisions, or there were things that we could have done differently. But now, with help from Eric, Satya, and other folks, we have managed to kind of get back to the right track and start polishing the API surface. So things are getting really well. React Navigation. Obviously, with React Native, there is the release process and changelogs that I'm doing, and then the next changelog should be online in a couple of days. Yeah, there's like a lot of exciting stuff that I'm going to ship soon. So you guys should kind of keep an eye on that.
So does that mean the API is going to change for React Navigation a little bit?
Yes, I mean the API is going to like the high level API is going to stay the same in the sense that you still are going to use routers and navigators the way you've been using. What's going to change is the navigation options, because currently with the latest React Navigation version that's on NPM, the way you set up navigate like options is you like they are nested, right? You set up like a header, and header is an object, and inside header you have to like title, left, right, back button. What we are doing is we flattened these options. So now you got header title, header back button, header tint color. This change is kind of significant because it solves a lot of issues with merging these options. The problem people were having was that they were trying to set up default options on Navigator, and then they were trying to override these options on per screen basis. But the problem was that we were not merging these options. Like we wanted to be explicit, and we thought like, hey, we're not gonna merge anything behind the scenes because it's gonna complicate it's gonna be like tricky to reason about, right? But it turned out to be very cumbersome for people, and they had like a lot of issues with, writing these apps. They were opening a lot of issues like, hey, why my title is like not showing? I had like all these keys set up, right? So with the flat options, there is no magic. It's like key by key strategy, which is going to simplify a lot of things for people. If you are interested in more things as far as React Navigation stable API is going, there is an open issue. You can search for stable key, and you will find an issue opened by Eric that lists down all the issues that we want to fix before shipping stable release. It's an open list, so if you feel like there is something that, in your opinion, should be included, feel free to open it and suggest what you want. We are open to hearing your use cases, and yeah, we can factor it in as long as it makes sense for the initial release.
Very nice. That's issue number 723 for anybody listening.
Oh, you are Googling fast.
That's why he brings me in on the podcast. I'm the Googler.
Yeah.
Now, I was going to say, I have to say that I think out of all of our guests, you seem to have like the largest breadth of knowledge about everything, kind of a comprehensive idea of kind of what's going on and, new stuff in the React Native ecosystem. I think it's been a really interesting episode. I'm wondering if it might be a good idea to have you on maybe like once a month to do like a 15 to 30 minute thing, and we can do it on the same time that we're doing now, if it's better for your schedule, and kind of do like a recap of what's going on in the last month, what's coming up, what Call Stack is doing. I think that would be super helpful to the listeners. And I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect idea. Like, first thing is, I'm kind of feeling guilty right now because I have this feeling that I have explained things in a very, very bad way. So if anyone that's listening has the feeling that it's kind of tricky to understand, it's my fault. It's not yours. It's just how the things are really, really like tricky to explain. But that would be great. I mean, there is just so many things to explain. Like before the podcast, I was like, how come we're gonna speak for half an hour about React Native? But now I feel like there is like so many things that we haven't covered, including like really a lot of things. So yeah, it would be really great because I mean, it's probably hard for people to stay updated with what's going on. I feel like things are changing so fast that if you are not in a process already, if you are not involved in the development of these things, there is no way you're gonna be on top of all these things.
That's right. That's so true.
Yeah, but again, what you think? I feel like we and Call Stack would be happy to do these kind of recaps on what's going on.
Yeah, I think that would be awesome. I'm gonna hold you to that. I'm gonna set up some calendar invites once a month, Fridays.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest problem for me was that, like, the time zone, right? I mean, I can't just wake up 4 a.m. in the middle of the night and do the podcast because my wife is just going to kill me.
Oh,
Okay,
come on. It's
and
not like
only
you work
her,
that hard anyway. You could easily wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning and join us.
And let's be fair, it's not like you're falling asleep. You're still awake at 3 o'clock in the morning, be honest.
Yeah, but I way better prefer this time because, it's still day. So after the podcast, I have like plenty of things to do. Nader, do you feel like there is any question you want to ask once again, just to kind of give us the opportunity to, I don't know, maybe there is something we can explain once again? Because I really feel like I was like very, very like explaining it badly. So
I liked it, man. I liked it.
Yeah, I think it was great. I think a cool thing to cover from now on, like if we do these monthly things, is to kind of let you kind of go over the latest release, to kind of just quickly mention things that might be important to people that are either upgrading or that maybe looking out for features and that type of stuff.
Yeah, I think that what we could do is, because I'm releasing a lot of things, like I'm releasing Whole, I'm releasing React Navigation and React Native, so at least 3 repos. So I could, we could get on for like a quick podcast and try to go over the changes and kind of, highlight them for people like, okay, this is cool. By the way, this is another change if you want to upgrade, blah, 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 this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I mean, especially where everybody loves React Navigation, right? So any kind of changes that are coming through there. I mean, there's so many different navigation options now, but like if you're a React Native developer and you don't have to work with actual like mixing in with Brownfield, I mean, I wouldn't understand why anybody would go any other way. And so I think that it's kind of key that if the change is coming down the pipe there, I'd be like, tell me more about it. We could always do an entire podcast talking about navigation. In fact, Nader, you have.
We have, but it's outdated now, so maybe we need to do another one.
Yeah, there is gonna be a like these changes is gonna ship. Like we planned to ship them yesterday, but I broke the repo in the middle of the night, so so we got a delay, and I'm not sure if we're gonna ship it today because it's Friday, but and people will be upset, or even if not upset, they will be confused. So we want to have probably like at least Monday, Tuesday to help them fix the problems, and so I don't know, like probably at the beginning of next week. So we're gonna have a blog post. That's the reason I wasn't actually tweeting about the changes yet. We're gonna explain them and upgrade, like advise people how to upgrade. But it's probably going to be painful as every breaking change.
So is it okay if we go ahead and move to the picks? Is there anything else that you want to talk about?
Well, maybe no. I think the pick is that we're just gonna be like, our pick can be that we're gonna be in Amsterdam next week with Gant. So
yeah, that's gonna be mine too. Oh wait,
you stole my pick.
How about my pick will be React Native EU.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
I like that. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I think all 3 of us are going to be there. So awesome, definitely. So my pick, I guess, I have 2 picks. One of them is I just started using Prettier, and it's really cool, and it's super easy to get going. So Prettier, and then I added it to my VS Code setup, and I'm loving it. I guess my second pick is actually having to do with podcasting. I was invited to go to the Microsoft Build Conference. So I'm going to be part of the media booth. So we're going to have like a dozen or so podcasters there. We're going to be interviewing people. So if you're going to Microsoft Build, stop by and say hello. And I guess look out for a bunch of podcasts that I'm going to be recording there. We're probably going to be shooting out like a Microsoft Build segment of maybe a handful of podcasts that are going to be in addition to our regular scheduled podcasts. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be fun.
So my pick will be that now they're following up on the Prettier that you mentioned. I'm also using it, and it's really nice. We've been using it in Whole, and it helped us to eliminate all these discussions about semicolons, spacing, and formatting. It's really lovely. You should try it. If you don't know how to set it up or looking for best practices, or just trying to see how to make it working with ESLint or how these tools should work together now, we've made a special boilerplate for Node module that you can use to get ESLint, flow, Babel setup with transpilation on npm publish, good README, code of conduct, and obviously prettier. So the link is included to this podcast. Feel free to check it out. It's really fun. We use it at CallStack in production, and in fact, Hall is also based on top of that.
So I guess we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode. But before we go, I wanted to go ahead and mention again, we did talk about React Native EU. React Native EU is a React Native conference. It's going to be in Poland in September. I've seen the lineup and it's amazing. There's really some cool stuff going on. It'll be the first React Native conference in Europe. And there's also Chain React, which is going to be in Portland in July. So if you're in the US, come to Chain React or come to both. And, they're both going to be the first two React Native specific conferences. And I'm really looking forward to going there and seeing all these talks and hanging out with everybody. So, Mike, thank you for coming on the show. And like we talked about earlier, we're hoping to have you back on a consistent basis now doing that new kind of setup.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been really fun. And I'm really looking forward to, having yet another podcast with you on React Native. Exciting stuff.
Awesome. Thank you for listening, and we'll see everyone next week.